Hello, everyone. Welcome to this entrepreneurship live series. This is Dr. J. So, welcome to the Entrepreneurial Mindset 101 web series. Today, we're talking about the entrepreneurial mindset in education. So, thank you all for joining me today. And so, as we continue the discussion, we're going to focus on how Entrepreneurial Mindset 101 plays a role in education. Now, this topic of this conversation is not about, starting a business, launching a business, or if you have intentions of launching a business. This is not what this is about. That's for a different conversation, a different topic, for a different series that will be on at a later time. So we're just focusing on the entrepreneurship mindset on education. Last week, we talked about the general vision of Entrepreneurial Mindset 101. You can watch that video in my YouTube channel, Dr. J Real Talk, and it's a really good one. So you can watch that one. Of course, we're playing on to that same video from last week. And this time, we're talking about how that plays a role in education. So welcome again to this webinar series. I'm Dr. J, so just a little bit about me. I'm a scholar. I've published articles, mostly in the education sector, and open educational resources. I've also created a business open educational resource. You can find that, of course, on my website there, jfulgenciophd.com. Also an educator with over a decade of experience in the teaching. So I've taught different numerous topics, including business and entrepreneurship, American federal government and such. I am a certified practitioner of the Entrepreneurial Mindset Profile. The Entrepreneurial Mindset Profile is an assessment tool that examines skills and capabilities to drive growth and innovation. So the AMP looks at 7 personality scales and 7 skills scales. I'm also an Entrepreneurial Mindset Program facilitator for the Ice House, which is inspired by the book "Who Owns the Ice House: 8 Life Sessions from an Unlikely Entrepreneur," which accompanies that program. And that program is an experiential, problem-based learning program designed to inspire and engage participants with the determination and perseverance of an entrepreneurial mindset. So and I will talk about that later as how I can help your organization, your business, if you're interested in taking the mindset profile, or if you want me to facilitate an entrepreneurial mindset program. So let's get started with this webinar. So we're going to define the entrepreneurial mindset. So what that is, because it helps drive the conversation, and then go into how entrepreneurial mindset plays a role in education, some tips, and of course, the wrap up. So that's what we will be guiding you today with. So what is the entrepreneurial mindset, right? If you were here last week, let's look at it again. If you weren't here, what in your mind is entrepreneurial mindset? Just think about it. What in the world is entrepreneurial mindset? When you hear that word, what do you think? Is it making money? Is it becoming the next person on the entrepreneurship magazine, as finding a unicorn business? What is defining the entrepreneurial mindset, right? So again, how do you define that in your own words? There's a lot of definitions. If you put entrepreneurial mindset in Google, you're probably going to get various, or some type of search engine. You can get a variety of definitions. So there is no end all be all definition. So my defining of it is not the end all be all, but there are some various things that we can look at when we define entrepreneurial mindset. So we look at the entrepreneurial mindset. Again, this is not the end all, but there are some things that you look about when you talk about defining the entrepreneurial mindset. So one of them is, of course, combination of traits and skills that enable to identify opportunities, foresee, and overcome challenges. So both in a business and a non-business context, of course. In this, we're talking about non-business context in education, of course. The state of mind drawn towards opportunities, innovation, and new value creation, discover, relevant, exploit opportunities. As you can see here from these definitions, the one word that comes out, if you see in almost every single bullet point here, is opportunities. Every single bullet point highlights opportunities. So one of the main things about entrepreneurial mindset is the individual, right? Your mindset, finding opportunities, right? And not letting anything stop you in regards to you. There's a problem, right? So what opportunity may I have to forego and seek the betterment, to seek value, to innovate, to evaluate, to discover, right? And that can play a huge role in education. And we'll talk about that. If you're the educator, right, how can I apply that entrepreneurial mindset in the classroom? Or if you're the student, how can I build an entrepreneurial mindset when it comes to in education? So just think about it. It's about opportunities, right? So some of the characteristics of the entrepreneurial mindset. As you can see here, there are some various characteristics, right? Determination and perseverance, seeking feedback, passion, independence, persistent problem solving. All right, one of the things that we look at when in the education world, and I'm talking to the educator now, right? And education right now, after the COVID pandemic or during the COVID pandemic and afterwards, there was a lot of challenges going on, right? From students going home and, of course, taking classes from their computer, very minimal resources. As we know, there's a lot of challenges to education. And I'm specifically speaking in the United States region. And of course, globally, it's been a challenge as well. And so, how do having an entrepreneurial mindset as an educator in education brings tremendous value because we know there are problems, right? Not every school district, not every school setting is the same, right? There's some schools that have more resources than others, more funding than others, more opportunities. However, that shouldn't let you stop you, right? If you have an entrepreneurial mindset, right, uh, you seek those opportunities to make sure that the classroom thrives, even though there may be problems. So again, when the person who has the characteristics of entrepreneurship has these things, right? They always seek those opportunities. They always seek the feedback, of course, passion, uh, perseverance, right? They have that determination of perseverance, no matter what the issues are. As an educator, I can say, and been in the classroom as well, there will always be problems, but how do you seek opportunities beyond that? Because sometimes in some places, some environments, you're just thrown into the wildfire, right? Not physically, but just thrown into the classroom, figure it out on your own, right? You can either sink, right? Or you can thrive on it. And of course, see how you can persevere. And of course, finding ways and opportunities to make the classroom better, even though you weren't given the proper resources. So, how do we look at that and look at that as an aspect in natural mindset education? And so, when we look at that, we want to make sure that we find value as the educators to make sure that students or pupils or however you want to call them, the people you're teaching, how do you build that entrepreneurial mindset and education, or what role does it play in education? And it does bring a tremendous value. The entrepreneurial mindset does have a tremendous value in education, especially today in the 21st century. If you recall back and go back to my video when I talk about the entrepreneurial mindset playing a role in the 21st century, it's a valuable role because things are ever changing, technology is ever changing, careers are ever changing, students are ever changing, the way we learn is ever changing. We used to go from reading books all the time to being on tablets to watching videos on YouTube to even asking Alexa for the answer to a question. I recall a video I saw on social media a while ago when this whole Alexa thing and Echo were coming out. Some little kid was asking for the questions, asking for the answers to a question. And that's you have to think about that. Students can now find answers very quickly than it used to be before. When I was a kid, we still, library still had the Dewey Decimal System. The best search engine we had was Ask Jeeves, but that's of course changing in education. So, why should we have the entrepreneurial mindset, right? The education system is still centered around compliance instead of creativity, right? And so we still live in an education system that was built for the time of the 1900s when people still worked in factories, where the majority of Americans worked in factories. Today's age, in the United States specifically, we don't work in such environments anymore. Not everybody works in a factory, right? There's a lot of white collar jobs, a lot of service-based businesses. Those days are behind us. In other regions of the world, right, they're still centered around compliance. There's still compliance, still a lot of factory jobs. But however, here and we're focusing on the United States, we don't, the education system is still focused on compliance, and we don't live in such environment. Today's graduates are likely to have multiple careers over a lifetime. So, how do you create a student, or how do you make sure that that student who today is going to graduate, when they go out to the real world after high school, whether they're going to go to vocational training or 4-year institution or 2-year institution or the military, or whatever it may be, that guides them, how are you going to prepare them to make sure that they're able to adapt to the changing environment? Again, a lot of students are going into environments where they have to be creative, or they have to seek opportunities wherever they may be. Um, they may not be an employee in 8 to 5 company. They may be an independent contractor. And so again, the days of our grandfathers or our great grandfathers or even our parents who had a 30-year career in one job, those days are long gone. And so they're gonna have a multiple careers, even change their careers over time. After 5 years, I've known people who graduated from college, and then of course after 5 years didn't like what they studied and changed careers completely, maybe because there was an opportunity for more money or for whatever it may be. Again, it's that word of opportunity. And if you can instill as an educator and the entrepreneurial mindset, you can instill that seeking opportunities. That's just, you've succeeded as an educator. And if we look back at the definition of entrepreneurial mindset, one of the main highlights of the various definitions I had was opportunities. And so we can instill that in students, right? Just right here, future jobs will require tremendous adaptation. Again, you can't narrowly focus on one skill. How can you adapt into various skills, right? It's ever changing. Employment opportunities are ever changing. Again, they're going to have to adapt. If we can instill that in students to adapt to their learning environment and seeking those opportunities, we will make great strides in bringing the entrepreneurial mindset and education. So some of the things that the top 10 skills require for employment, some of the out there, if you look at the top 3, complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity, right? There's other ones, like negotiation, cognitive flexibility, emotional intelligence, people management, right? And so of course, one of the 3 things is people are going to have to really be critical thinkers and be creative and complex problems. I mean, of course, we're talking about, the legality, making sure it's legal, of course, and then making sure the students, hey, you can be creative and critical thinker and complex problem solver, but make sure it's within legal boundaries. Don't break the law. It's okay to break the rules, but don't break the law, right? And so how do we instill those things, right? As an educator. And again, one thing that I do want to mention is that to instill an entrepreneurial mindset in education as an educator, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to necessarily go and, go get an entrepreneurship degree. In my background, I have a PhD in education. Of course, I have a master's in entrepreneurship from Oklahoma State University. But besides from that, when you look at the entrepreneurial mindset, again, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to do that. You can do different activities. You can learn about it and do different activities in the classroom. And you probably already have been doing them in the classroom. You just didn't know there were activities to help bring out the entrepreneurial mindset in your classroom. And so we'll talk about as well. So just highlight those top 10 skills is required or will be required for employment, because people are always looking for those people to have those critical skills in the world, in their job environment. And so how do we do this, right? How do we go about, how do we go about changing these things, right? And how do we go and build an entrepreneurial mindset in education? How can we bring that into the environment? Again, you don't have to go be an entrepreneur. You don't have to get a degree in entrepreneurship to do so. You're probably already doing it in the classroom. You just didn't see it in this context of the entrepreneurial mindset. And so there's 3 things here, right? You could do problem-based learning, right? You're probably already doing it in your classroom. Some high schools are based on problem-based learning. Problem-based learning is an instructional approach designed to give students the opportunity to develop knowledge and skills through engaging projects around challenges and problems they face in the real world. And so in your classroom, whether you're teaching high school, you're teaching K-12, or you're teaching in higher education, or of course, in vocational training, you're doing real life, but, in higher education, if you're a higher ed instructor, maybe perhaps you start implementing project-based learning in your field, whether you're teaching theater, whether you're teaching communications, political science, business, any type of business course. Well, hopefully in business course, you are already doing such project-based, problem-based learning. Sorry. Um, so again, yeah, looking at that, discover, design, and make, right? And so another project there is, of course, discover, design, and make. That means discover a problem, discover, design a solution for it, and make it. And so, of course, a lot of students now today are doing some sort of projects out there where they're designing and making actual products. And I know that in some institutions, they're actually creating drones. uh, and so again, how do you have students actually make something out of it, not just discover and design, but actually make the actual product. Implement design challenges in creative contests, right? Have some design challenges in creative contests that is going to help the students, right? And so, of course, we're looking at project based learning. As I mentioned, sorry, it was should have been problem. Whether I had the problem based learning, it should have been project based learning. But looking more in context of it, if you wanted to put project based learning in the business context, and again, this is just in the business context. If you wanted to do this, and again, in your own field, you can kind of work from this, actually making them do something. A business plan, if you're teaching some sort of a business course, whether it's a business plan course or entrepreneurship one-on-one course, or you can have them do a business model canvas, which is a visual representation of a business model, highlighting key strategic factors. Or you can have them design an app, right? There's tools out there that can help students design an app at free or very low cost. So you can have them design an app uh, to bring something, right? Like there's you can go back to design uh, the project of making sure that if they find a problem, design an app for it. We live in an app world. So that could be something that they could do. And think about it in your own field. What can you have them do to design something or actually make something of a physical product? Again, every single field, whether again it's theater, communications, political science, whatever it may be, has some sort of project that you can have the students do that's solving a real world issue. It's just your duty as the educator to bring that about, because again, it's going to bring out those skills that we discussed, that the problem solving skills, the creative skills, the cognitive skills is going to, working with others. And so it's going to help them build those skills when they go out into the real world. If you really focus on those project based learning activities. And of course, if you're still having trouble with that, and of course, I just put a couple here and there's more, you can just put project based learning activities in your field. And I'm pretty sure on Google or some other type of search engine, you're going to get a good amount of project ideas or already done out there. The wonderful thing about an education is that people already do stuff and they're more than willing to share their ideas with you. That's the wonderful thing about education. They're really great out there to go out there and put that information out there. And so you can kind of look at that activity and replicate it on your own for your student body or work from there. You don't have to necessarily go from scratch. You can see what's out there and just kind of tweak it for your own well-being. I know as me as the educator, when I teach a business plan course, of course, I have students actually write a business plan with a group, take the whole semester to do it, and take it bit by bit, parts by parts, and working in groups. And they may not, they may not go start the business. However, they've learned how to write a business plan, and they work together as a team, have creative, think about creative, have creativity skills, um, so how to solve a problem, finding solutions to a problem. And so that I have students do that. And within that, they've designed the app. And so, I've done these things in the classroom, and it actually really does help the students, even though they may complain about working in groups. I mean, like, I remind them in the real world, you're going to work in groups. Most jobs, bulk of the jobs that we all work in, whether you're in education or business or whatever it may be, nonprofit, you're working in groups, whether you like it or not. It's very rare that you'll find a job that you don't work in groups. There's very few of them, but majority of jobs you're working in groups, and so you're gonna have to communicate and work with people. So it brings out that as well. That social cognitive skills, working with people, learning how to communicate, that also brings about just one of the things that helps an individual build the entrepreneurial mindset. Just real quick on the discover, design, make, right? And so here, just want to highlight about that. Discover, learn how to clearly and broadly define the design challenge, design, create something new and innovative that solves a problem, and bring everything together that can be assessed. So just discover, design, make project relates to design thinking. And of course, implement design challenges and creative contests. You can see here just some of the activities there. I did the leadership pizza activity, and it's a really cool activity. If you've never done it with your class, you can do it in almost any sort of class. When you talk about leadership, whether it's a business or non-business context, it's a really great activity that I've done. I have students, draw pizza, and in each slice is a leadership trait and what they're good at and what they're not good at. And so that's a really great activity. Creativity space, that's actually a great activity where students actually draw out their creative space. And of course, in the Zoom environment, I actually have them show me their creative space. So that's a really great, awesome activities to do. So again, and I mentioned, so what can you do in the classroom? Even in a non-business context, you can still find activities to do to build the entrepreneurial mindset. Again, look at project-based learning as a guide. Design thinking as well is another two. I would say those are probably one of the top two things. How you can bring the entrepreneurial mindset in education. There's a bunch of resources on design thinking. I know Stanford has some great resources on it. Other IDEO is another good one for design thinking. And of course, there's a bunch out there on project-based learning. You can also have students take the entrepreneurial mindset profile assessment, which I can do. I'm certified to do that assessment. Or if they want to do some project on community outreach as well. And so just some tips as we start kind of wrapping up here, tips when I'm implementing entrepreneurial mindset. I would first kind of learn more a little bit about the entrepreneurial mindset. I do provide some videos on the entrepreneurial mindset. The video I did last week, you can find my YouTube channel. Just type in Dr. J Real Talk. You'll see entrepreneurial mindset. You can look at that. So there's other great resources online, which I'll show. You don't have to answer every question, right? One of the things about when you're implementing entrepreneurial mindset is that have the students find the answers to the questions that they may ask. There'd be times there's been times in the classroom where I didn't know the answer to the question. I said, let's find it together, or let's go and see and find the answer to that question. Provide students with ungoogleable questions. What would you do? There's you can think about some ways that students can't easily go Google those questions. So think about some ungoogleable questions. And of course, for mine, what's in it for the student, right? If you're having them do a project or whatever it may be, assignment, what's in it for them? Students are thinking about what's in it for me. If I'm doing this project, what's in it for me? And so think about that when implementing the actual mindset in the classroom. And so, as I mentioned here, some resources that you can look at. The profile, of course, there's the Entrepreneurial Mindset Academy, the Mindset Network, learning initiative. So I definitely recommend you go check out some of these resources as a starting guide to learn more about the entrepreneurial mindset. And I highly recommend you do so as well. And of course, subscribe to these YouTube channels that provide resources as well on that. So as we wrap up, don't get caught up in the entrepreneurial mindset, right? If you teach an entrepreneurship class, you don't have to go have them write a business plan, maybe just a business model canvas or something else. If you're teaching in a non-business course, don't get so caught up in, oh, I'm going to build the next Mark Zuckerberg or the next big, great entrepreneur. No, don't get so caught up in that. The entrepreneurial mindset is not necessarily about starting a business. It's about building a mindset to seek opportunities out there, right? Create value, find the challenges and seek the opportunities to find, to go beyond the problem and solve those problems, right? Again, there's plenty of resources out there in the Google sphere or other search engines. So again, there's plenty of entrepreneurial mindset resources. And again, this can, I can be one of your resources as well. So again, don't get caught up in that whole entrepreneur part of the mindset, right? If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to follow me on social media at JPHD18. So you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter. You can also go to Entrepreneur Mindset Academy. So entrepreneurmindset.academy. You can also go to my website, my personal website, and definitely a great resource there. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you in our next webinar series where we talk about entrepreneurial mindset in the workforce. And so again, feel free, or please do make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure you share it, and make sure that you come out to the next webinar series. Thank you, and have a good one.